roles have reversed. Sitting here with the Coach Scott Fields Show, my buddy Alema Harrington. God, you are a pro at this. I need to get my notebook out. I got my pen and paper. Teach me how to do this well. I'm new at this. I'm just a coach between gigs trying to bring quality content, and you come on here with all this passion. I'm like a young veteran coming into a gym, watching LeBron James work out going, whoa, you're the best at what you do.
Hardly that. But, I think the interesting thing, and for those that, just a little history between you and I, the first time that I ever saw Scott was at Rocky Mountain Review.
Yeah.
And for those that don't remember, we actually used to have, a summer league here in Utah.
Yeah.
And eventually it went away. But I remember seeing you. And you and I'm not sure if you and Kim were married at the time,
yeah.
but you had rolled in there, and I'm like, man, that guy's got it going on. And then I would run into you occasionally here and there, and then I recall I just had this inspiration. I mean, it was just more of an impulse, or and maybe inspiration is the right word. That this got to be on your show, because we're looking for somebody that could come in and give us some background on NBA. Analysis, and the Utah Jazz as well, and you were spending some time, watching their practices, and what a blessing it was, man, to bring you on, and not just to have your expertise in that, because you were fantastic in that role as an analyst with us,
Thanks.
but to develop that friendship with you,
bet.
and that's really what it's about. As I watch you, and I'm sitting here as an observer watching you do your show, which was fun for me too, is that it's about caring. And that's how you get the interview that make that the person that you're interviewing feel comfortable, and then you get the gem.
Yeah.
I still recall back in my days when I first arrived at Channel 5 and developing it's still a professional but a personal relationship at the same time with Karl Malone.
Yeah.
And being able to sit down and I learned from one of the best in Craig Bolerjack, who is the voice of the Utah Jazz on Root Sports Now. And Bowler was so good at just making you sit down, and it's just you and me talking. There's some people watching, maybe a million or so, whatever, not a big deal. But as they feel comfortable with you, then they're willing to share their story with you because they feel safe there. And that's the beauty of what you bring to it as well. Is this people trust you. Scott, they love you, the man. And so they would just want to sit here and have that conversation. And we're having it in front of a camera, and that's what it is.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. It's very kind of you. I think you're one of the best at what you do. And you know what? We've got to do speaking engagements together. We did one at West High School the one time and had a great time with that, and the message that you gave to them. I remember you talking about, doing things that were unprecedented.
Yes.
Your word was unprecedented, and, be the first to do it, and, don't let people, set a ceiling for you. Break out and do your thing.
Yeah.
Do it with your personality and your flair. And what a great message that you delivered that time.
Just because it hasn't been done doesn't mean it can't be done.
That's right. That's exactly right. If you hear me, clap twice.
Yes, sir.
So we had fun with that, and here we are several years later, still have that great friendship. I mean, several months can go by. I could be overseas doing who knows what, trying to win a championship, and we come back, and we always seem to kind of connect, and I appreciate your friendship.
Trying to win or winning a championship,
We've been blessed to have had a lot of success, and hopefully, we'll be blessed to continue that. But I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. Getting to watch and observe and learn from people like yourself. It can only make us grow in other things. But what types of message would you give to the viewers who have got careers and maybe they don't know what they want to do after their playing days are done? You obviously made a choice and a commitment to say, hey, I'm going to get into broadcasting. What was that transition like? And take us through that journey. I mean, let people know Alema Harrington away from the lights and the glamour. Was that a tough decision for you? Is that something that did you study it in college, or was it something that just kind of fell to you because you're a natural at it with your gift?
Yeah, I think part of it is finding what you love. And my dad had a saying when I was growing up, and my dad is an entertainer. He's actually he was a history major at Stanford. He was the first high school All-American outside of the continental United States, coming out of Hawaii, Punahou High School, and then went on to Stanford, and then went on to serve a mission for the LDS Church in Samoa. then came back, went to some law school, and then came back to Hawaii. Went back to Hawaii and started teaching school at Punahou, and then got into the entertainment industry. But just a dynamic personality. My father is, and was on the original Hawaii Five-0 as a regular. The character that he played was Ben Kokua.
Cool.
On Hawaii Five-0 for 3 years. He was a regular there. But I learned so much from watching him, and then I had some of that natural, those talents and abilities as far as the performance is concerned. But my dad told me when I was growing up, he would say, find out what you love, do that. And then if you do what you love, then you become the best at what you do. And if you're the best at what you do, then the money will take care of itself. Because so many times it's all about, well, how much money can I make?
Yeah.
And that ends up being the wrong approach. And you might end up making some money and not doing something that you really love.
Yeah.
And I found that I really enjoyed doing this, and I did do some of it in college. I didn't have the GPA to major in broadcast communication, so I was a sociology major, as many of the athletes are.
Okay.
But I had a minor. I had enough classes in broadcast to get my minor there, and then I had to be proactive from that point. And so I had a great example for me, a mentor who was Vi Sikahema. And Vi played for BYU and then on to the NFL and was a fantastic kick returner in the NFL.
And then the Eagles? He had great years with
the Eagles.
The Eagles.
Yeah, he started with the Arizona Cardinals and then played with the Eagles for a number of years. But as I watched Vi, the thing that Vi did, and he knew that he could be a broadcaster, he had the flair for it. But he spent time working on it during the offseason. He understood that at some time, and for those that are watching, listening to the program, you might be an athlete at this point and have to make that transition at some time. That's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
And the best guys are the ones that prepare for that. And Vi would, during the offseason, started off when he was in Arizona because he's from Arizona, so he knew some of the people there. During the offseason, football offseason, he would go to the local television station and intern.
Yeah.
An intern for free. Now this is an NFL player coming to say, look, I just want to learn this business. And so that was the example for me. And so I did a lot of internships for free. And I was working and then just trying to break into the business and doing everything that I could. But I think that the thing that we as athletes, coaches, that you take over to that next thing is you remember the work ethic.
Yeah.
And that whether you're teaching that and you're teaching that from your own experience, you know that whatever you get into, it's going to take hard work.
Yeah.
And so you commit yourself to that. And so that's what I did. I did a lot of stuff for free, and was able to build a resume tape, and then eventually was able to get that first job.
Yeah.
And so it really was for me about understanding, number one, I had a passion for this, and I had some God-given talents, and I think God will let you know. He'll tell you, try this, and if you're good at it, then God's just letting you know, look, that's where your talent's at.
Yeah.
And so you follow that, that as you're going through and following this treasure map, right? Yeah, you follow the clues, and one of the clues is, that feels good. I feel good doing that. And so that was the path for me, and then I was fortunate to end up first in Hawaii, then at Channel 5 in Salt Lake City, the NBC affiliate, and was able to cover the Jazz through their 2 runs to the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
The BYU Cougars went to the Cotton Bowl and had some great success, and I found a niche in Utah.
Yeah.
And then eventually with the Utah Jazz and now with BYU TV, as well, but the Larry H. Miller Company has been fantastic to me.
Great people, great family.
So as far as covering the Jazz and doing their half and post-game shows and working with Thurl and Coach Phil and Bowler and Matt, it's just been a real blessing.
Those guys are awesome, aren't they? Yeah, it's great to always surround yourself with good people, and that makes the experience and the journey that much better to learn and grow from each other. But I want to go back to something that you shared, because you talked about how your father was a role model for you, and it's the same for me. I mean, here I am, I'm just a guy out in the agricultural country of Indiana, and my father, he had to support his family at a young age, so he loved his sport, so he actually coached me when I was young, playing baseball and football, and some with basketball. But I can remember being out in the backyard with him, and my dad's shooting shots behind his back, and I was like, that's cool. And then I'd watch some of these fakes that he would do. He'd put the ball between his legs, and he'd fake a pass, and he'd get us all turned in, and he'd just laugh. I was like, oh, young buck, and then he'd shoot and score. I'd be like, man, I like that. How do you do that? And so it's interesting to see that, for both of us, our fathers were huge impacts in us, and developing us. And my father always pushed me to try to be the best that I was going to be at whatever sport I was playing, because I played all three sports in high school. But it's interesting to hear that you had the same type of thing, and here we sit now, be in front of this camera, and we both have children, and it's inspiring to know that we can be leaders and role models to our kids, and hopefully we're teaching them the right skills to go on and be prosperous in whatever they choose.
Yeah.
So it's refreshing to hear you say that about your father, and I appreciate you sharing that with everybody.
Yeah. Shout out to your pops, right? He tweeted.
He
He's
did.
What are you picking, San Antonio?
Yeah.
San Antonio. Okay.
Pops
okay.
in Indiana
I feel you.
going with them Spurs there. I didn't know my dad was social media savvy, and he tweeted me.
He tweeted.
Dad.
Right on. I don't know if my dad knows how to tweet. He struggles with the text messaging, so that's solid right there.
My dad's bringing the juice tonight on the Go Scout Field Show. So, Dad, we love you. Appreciate you sending that tweet. So let's go to the BYU.
Yeah.
What was that like? You played your high school ball in Hawaii.
Right.
It sounds like. So you signed with BYU. Take us through that journey, the maturation, the growth personally from high school to college. What was that transition like? Because we try to explain it to players, but share that journey with the players who may be watching right now that are in high school and they want to go to college. It's a jump.
Yeah.
And you see some of these guys in the NBA that, go from high school to the professionals. That's 1 in a billion. I mean, let's be honest. The stats are small, but for you playing football in Hawaii, I coached in Hawaii for 2 years at Chaminade University, and I can remember St. Louis Heights. I mean, they had a great football
because you shared
program.
that campus
We
together
did.
with St. Louis.
Right there on St. Louis. That's right. And it was so fun to watch those guys because, man, they were up practicing at 5:40 in the morning, and they're out there, they're lifting the weights, and they're going through their drills. I mean, football out there is like Indiana basketball. It's like a religion.
Yeah.
And so take the viewers through that journey. What was it like for high school to college, and what did that mean to you to sign at BYU?
It's interesting too because your boy Brandon was here today, and this is a whole different world. Because I remember when I was being recruited by BYU, I came up on my recruiting trip. I met some guys on my recruiting trip, and then I remember being on a landline phone, calling long distance back and forth to these guys and talking about, are you going to sign with BYU? One of the guys, his name was Junior Lopati. He's a local kid here, and he committed to BYU and then signed with the University of Hawaii. And then I had another buddy of mine that was from here that played at Granite High School, is gone now, but Andy Katoa, and he came with, he was on a recruiting trip with me and then came to BYU with my brother and I. But, I mean, that's back, we're up on a landline, when you had to stretch that long cord and try to get into the other room for some, exactly, right, the rotary dial. We were like big time if we had the touch tone. But now guys are tweeting it out, and Brandon's coming on your show and making this announcement. And so it's a whole different world in that regard, but it's still, that jump is still the same. For all of us that go from, for me, all-state, leading rusher in the state in Hawaii, and then you come to BYU, and everybody was that, right? Everybody that was being recruited that ended up at BYU at that time in 1984 was all everything. And so I still remember that the humbling process of going from being all everything in Hawaii to coming, and I was at practice at BYU, and they had me hold a bag, and like a blocking dummy bag. And I was like, what? What in the world is going on? And so that there was, that experience was humbling, and that's where the growth takes place too, because you have to make a decision at that point. Okay, do I transfer? What am I going to do? And I saw some guys transfer, but it's a tough deal because you learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about the people around you, your family, your friends, in that regard as well. And then I suffered a pretty major back injury and blew out my L4-5 disc and redshirted after my sophomore season, and things were looking good after my sophomore year. Then after the injury, I came back and played a couple more years, played my junior and senior year, but I was never back to that level. And so, then you have to go through the process. Okay, what do I take from my my athletic experience that I can take to the next level?
That's right.
And that transition is tough. You know,
Yeah.
we lose a lot of guys in that process
Yeah.
because you lose your identity. And so it's about, you know, the biggest lesson that I learned, a couple of things was politics. You got to learn the game of politics in athletics, and that's a valuable lesson to take to the next level.
Sure.
And then
Any profession,
yes,
any walk of life.
absolutely,
Yeah.
because I saw guys transfer because of politics, and they went to another place, and the politics are the same.
Yeah.
You know, so you got to figure out, okay, how do I learn the game and play the game? And then the other part was just to recognize that my identity couldn't be based on who I was as a football player, because that's going to end.
Yeah.
You know, it's who am I going to be as a man, and trying to figure that out. And that's a tough that's a tough time for a lot of us that have been playing sports from when we were young.
That's right.
To now, I don't play sports anymore. I'm no longer Alema Harrington, the running back. I'm Alema Harrington. Who in the world am I?
Yeah.
And so it's trying to discover that for ourselves.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, I appreciate you sharing that. John Matson came on here about a month ago, I believe, Bob, and he shared a great story about how he was unrecruited and he went to junior college, basically walked on at the University of Utah, and, you know, he went through some of those same kind of struggles, you know, about, you know, believing in himself.
Yeah.
Was he going to make the team? And, you know, at some point, you're going to have that test. You're going to have that adversity, and how you handle that adversity as a person and as a man, and accepting that adversity, you know, it's the choice that you make when that obstacle comes that is going to, you know, put you on the path to positive choices or poor choices. And the support systems that we surround ourselves with are so vital. And it sounds like you had a great support system of friends that were around you that helped you through that time. I kind of had a similar experience. Of course, was a Hall of Fame athlete in Indiana at my high school, and was, you know, recruited, took an oral polio vaccine that caused my immune system to go awry, that put me completely bedfast for 9 months. So my playing career, I go from Hall of Fame athlete to being bedfast for 9 months, which ended my career. And thank goodness, you know, I was able to get onto a path of knowing that if I couldn't play the game, I wanted to coach the game and try to help others. So, you know, adversity comes. No matter what we do, it's never something that you prepare for, but, you know, we always have to be cognizant and aware of the choices and the adversities that's around us, because the life lessons that we learn in sports are so intricate to the success that we have after sports.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, I'm just echoing what you were sharing with us. And again, it's great to hear your story, because to me, here you are as a broadcaster. We're blessed and fortunate to have you in the Salt Lake Valley, because, you know, even though it's a small market, if you're going to do something and commit it, be the best at it, just like your father was telling you, and you are great at what you do. And I think the viewers know that, and they watch you, and, you know, you get to work with Big T, and like you say, Coach Johnson, who has just so much knowledge and expertise. It's fun to sit back and watch and you know, see you guys do your thing. But it's great also too that, you know, you go through adversity and you handle it, and, you know, we go on and prosper.
Yeah.
So it's just good stuff. Hey, let's go on to another break here, Bob, and we're going to come back and have Alema Harrington right back here on the show with us.